Right. Hello. Good morning. Um, yeah, doing good. Despite the fact that we're quarantined, we got. It's such a mess. We've been discussing a bit this week. Like last week, we got a message in kindergarten that a family had been like infected by corona, and it's up to each family to take their own precautions related to that. There was no information about like when were they in kindergarten, which like section of the kindergarten was it, and I guess that's a privacy concern. But then we call like the government or like the people in charge of tracking down infections and stuff, and they're like, well, if there's no symptoms, just go to kindergarten. So we did that. We kept our daughter home for one day, and then sent her back. And then there's this tension around, like, are we making the right choice? Because the employees at the kindergarten are kind of hinting that, why are you sending your kid to kindergarten? There's infection here. But we hadn't gotten any information about any risk or anything. And then the government says it's no problem. And then, of course, we get a message that we have to be quarantined because one of the employees has been tested positive. And it's kind of frustrating because, like, we aren't infection experts. Like, it's just a level of paranoia that decides if we take like big precautions or not. And we decided just to follow the government. Like, whatever they tell us, we will just do it, because we can discuss everything up and down, back and forward for a long time. Anyways, but it's not like 2 weeks isolation. It's until Wednesday, I guess. And there's the weather forecast is like 25 degrees, and I'm able to work. So it's not a huge deal for us. So we're kind of lucky. It's just kind of weird that why can't the experts just tell us what to do, and then people kind of, that's what we rely on, instead of people discussing what's the best thing, because it's incredibly complicated for a government to do proper infection control, because like here it's completely overloaded now. So you have to prioritize, and that's where the problem lies, and all the discussions is because people have different prioritizations. Like, they can't test everyone, they can't give a vaccine to everyone at one time. Like, they have to prioritize, and that's really difficult to do. There will always be someone who's upset, and you might also make the wrong prioritization, of course. Anyways, enough said. My office is now a baby room. Finally, for the first time in like 6 months, more than 6 months, I'm actually sleeping in my own bed, which is amazing. Though had a shitty night. Like, I have to wake up twice, and like at 12 and 2:30, those are like the worst possible times to wake up for me. So I'm a little bit tired today, but I've been working on the app, and actually I implemented all the production stuff. I wish I could have done that here on the stream, because it was a really good experience, but I can rather show you what I did. So first of all, what I wanted to do, I wanted to be able to run the application in a sandbox mode or in browser mode. I'm calling it browser mode. And the way I eventually did that is that in the Next.js config, I can move environment variables into the application. So I'm just saying, if I'm running in sandbox mode, add that add the sandbox as an environment variable. So when I fire up the app, I can fire up in sandbox mode or in normal mode. And this is working just fine. My page container if we're in the browser and we are on a sandbox, we load the sandbox environment. If not, we load the browser environment. And if we're not in the browser, we'll load the next environment. And this is our environment interface to the whole application. So that's super awesome. And then, as we can see, this is a simple one. All I did, I guess I spent a couple of hours on this. I had to implement like the browser environment effects, which is basically Firebase. I had to implement it to the environment interface. So here you can see that, okay, when we create the authentication environment effect, there's some configuration, and then whenever Firebase changes its authentication, and we have a user, we go and grab the ID of the family if that person has that ID. So if they have the ID, I did refactor some events related to some new discoveries, which was mostly related to typing, where we actually say explicitly authenticated with family or just authenticated. Because these are two different flows. If you're authenticated with family, you just go straight into the app. If you're not, you're going to go into this flow where you decide if you're going to create a family or join a family. And then we have the errors and stuff. And then when we sign in, sorry, I'm noticing my brain isn't working 100%, but I really want to go through this. So when we sign in, we do a sign in with redirect because this is on mobile. And then we don't really have to do anything more, except when there's an actual error with doing this. And that's because this will actually trigger when you're done signing in. Cool. And then for the storage, like the cool thing is that everything that's Firebase related is inside this single file. There's no reason to have it like spread out through all your components and all that stuff. It's all here behind an environment effect that you can run completely in sandbox mode. What's going to happen here next is that we're adding a test environment where we'll mock all of these things. So yeah, but the cool thing is I reflected on how I wanted this data to work. And this was quite a revelation to me, because when you see solutions like Apollo, what's it called? Fetch query. It's some hook. I don't remember the name of it, but they actually take care of. They have caching and also optimistic behavior inside their solutions, and you don't need those kinds of solutions to do this. It's actually quite straightforward. So let me explain. So for example, here in this storage, I have my cache of groceries, to-dos, events, and weeks. And the way I think about this is that I've simplified the events a lot. So the events are more like, so for example, fetching the family data is critical. You have to have this before you can move on. And the family data doesn't ever update directly. Like fetching the family data doesn't trigger any future updates. The updates are explicitly on the groceries, the to-dos, the events, and so on. So that's why it has a family data success and family data error. But then we have weeks update. So this is when the weeks update, but there might be an error related to trying to fetch the initial weeks. So the thing is that most of this data, again, events update, add event error, to-dos update, add to-do error. There's no successes here for the data, and that's because they are treated as you like indicate that you're interested in the data, and then you will just get an update. And even though you get the initial update, it will continue giving you updates. And I realize more and more that this is what Firebase has been all about all along. Like I've always questioned, like, why does Firebase work the way it works? But it's basically that you don't really have successes. You just have streams of data, and it kind of works the same way here. So for example, when I so fetching the family data, for example, this is I have some collections within the family. I go and grab the initial data, and then I register snapshots on this data. And the way I do this with Firebase is that snapshots, they give you the current data as well, but I only want the future data. And a very straightforward way to deal with that is that all the data records has a modified field. That modified field is changed whenever you change the data of that, well, I guess it's called document. So we just say here, give me all updates for groceries beyond now. And then this is just a little helper I created where we say these are the groceries, and you get like an added, deleted, and modified event, and it does the update under the hood. And then we just notify that it was updated. And the same for to-dos and the same for events. We build the objects for the different data types. We put those up, we convert those arrays of objects into dictionaries of objects, and then we emit that event. But for example here, we just add the grocery. So we go to groceries collection, we add a grocery, and we don't do anything more because the snapshot actually triggers here. And the cool thing about Firebase is that it actually does optimistic updates as long as you do this kind of stuff, like you add or set, or like you do explicit changes. It optimistically changes those. But we also have transactions. So for example, when I toggle event participation, I am actually changing an array inside Firebase. And there is a risk that two people are trying to do this at the same time. And if any of these clients would actually redefine the whole array, that would be a problem. Because then one of the changes probably won't work. So then you run a transaction, because a transaction gives one of these clients access to this data. They can manipulate it safely and return the new version of it. And then when that's done, the next client in line will get in and get access to the same data. So you change the data from within Firebase instead of the client saying, this is how it's going to look now, and then send it in. But transactions aren't optimistic. So I'm going to show you some optimizations we're going to do, because now we are just, every time there's a snapshot on groceries, to-dos, events, and weeks, we just update this stuff and we emit an event. And the good thing about doing it this way is that we are doing this just like we would do in React normally. Like we don't like insert, like we don't want Firebase to, like we're dependent on like proper immutability-ish, like reference changing. So for example, if a single grocery changes, only that single grocery actually has a change. And then the groceries list itself also has a change. And that's, yeah, as I said, this is like normal React stuff. And we have that behavior inside the storage now. So we don't need any of that logic in our client at all, which is really, really good. We just get updates like, even though I just changed the shop count of a grocery, I will get a full update of all the groceries. But the thing is that most of them are the exact same grocery with the same reference. It's just the one that actually changed the shop count that has a new reference. So React is optimized with this. Like we use React memo and everything. So just from the client perspective, not having to deal with this shit is amazing. What was I talking about? Yeah, but anyways, this is the whole implementation, and we have a bug. One thing I forgot to fix is that I just tested this on my phone. One thing I forgot to fix is that you can like activate, like, I want to do this week, but then you might archive the to do, which means that it doesn't exist anymore. Actually, now it's not archived, it's actually deleted. Maybe I'll change that later, I don't know. But now it can't find the task anymore, which makes perfect sense. So we're going to fix that, and basically what we're going to do, we're not going to like clean up. So the thing is that the weeks has a reference to the to-dos by ID, and if you delete a to-do, you will kind of expect to clean up the references as well, but we don't care about that. That's complicated to do in Firebase, and it's strictly not necessary. So what we'll rather do is that we'll rather, dashboard view. Let's see, where do we have to-dos? Oh, I'm calling it task ID here. This is old stuff. To do ID. So here we are mapping. We have weekday to-dos by weekday. So what we could do here, what would be the proper way to do this, is actually here we need to filter out the ones that aren't actually there. Weekday task. Oh, I'm even calling it tasks here. Rename weekday to-dos. So we're just going to filter out the ones that doesn't exist. Oops. Weekday to do. Oh. Oh, this is the ID. Oh, sorry. To do ID. If not in to-dos. So if the to-do ID is not in the to-dos, well, sorry. If if the to-do ID is in the to-dos, then we actually allow it to render. Maybe this is enough for the fix. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Oh, I saw another tiny bug. Tiny bug. Where's our weekdays? This is going to be what? Yeah, weekdays index. Let's see. Sorry, I just saw a small thing. Why? Weekdays map. Why isn't this? What? You see it's lowercase here and then uppercase. And the reason is, but why is, I would expect it to actually be lowercase here as well. And the reason is I added internationalization, so it's actually Norwegian and English now. And this should really be, oh, sorry, these are the buttons, isn't it? No, sorry, this is the stuff down here. Yeah, I guess that's actually wrong on the Norwegian version. What I was going to do is... Where's the freaking slide? Oh, there it is. T. Oh yeah, that's how I did it. Okay, so that's okay. There we go. Yeah, and this needs to be a string. There we go. Monday. And then we're going to, sorry, I'm obsessing a little bit. Let's go to the Norwegian one. It's pretty cool how Next.js actually does all of this for you. The internationalization. I'm using Next Intel, Intel Next Intel. That was the one that made most sense to me. You can use different kinds of libraries to actually consume the internationalization. But the cool thing is that Next.js actually, on the main route, it actually detects the language on the request and redirects the user to the correct one and stuff. It's pretty cool. But we have an issue here because we need the same kind of... Oh my god. It's kind of annoying because the typing here isn't... I would love to have typed internationalization, which we don't really have here, which is a little bit annoying because we have to do this. There we go. Cool, sorry. So now, yeah, because now those are archived. Sorry, let's go back to the English one so you actually understand what's there. Nice. Okay, cool. So we're back on track. We've fixed that. And now what are we going to do? Well, that was my plan actually, to fix that. So yeah, I guess I can show it to you. So groceries, yeah, again, this is the actual account. So I can like have hit, yeah, like this is a little bit weird now. I haven't added the actual name of the category. And you see, yeah, that's the thing. Like you see there's a delay there. And I thought Firebase, yeah, so this is the thing. I thought Firebase was doing optimistic changes, but it doesn't seem to do that. And doing optimistic stuff is really, really tricky. Because there is a lot you have to think about. Optimistic Firestore. Like, and I never actually slow optimistic updates. Well, I would expect it to be synchronous. That's how I want it to be. But maybe that could be a fun thing to just go into. I don't care what Firebase does. There's certainly some async behavior here because it isn't instant. Oh, this is a bug. It's supposed to show... Oh, did it replace the other one? That's kind of weird. No, now both of them are there. Oh, yeah, that seems to be a bug. So when I added one, it didn't seem to keep the other one. So maybe we can dive into this, because this is, oops, not authentication, but browser. So add grocery. What the hell am I doing here? Oh, I could have checked this. Let's add some more. So agurk, that's like cucumber in Norwegian, and it's there. Let's see what the hell happened here. So I did get groceries updated, and there's a single grocery there. How did that happen? Let's take a look at our snapshot thingy. So if I get an added, it's supposed to get current data, which is the groceries. Oh, I think I'm not updating. I know what's wrong. This should just be groceries. And this should be to-dos. Like, I'm not storing the initial ones in the cache. There we go. Okay, so that's one bug. That was kind of nice using the dev tool. Cool. Yeah, so things we like, there are UI fixes here. Like, you don't see the difference in these categories right now. My girlfriend, that was kind of funny. You know, as a developer, I'm very what's it called? Like, I'm like, emotionally, I'm not very good at working on personal projects and sharing it with others. I don't like getting feedback. I get very defensive, and especially when I spend a lot of time working on something, and I like to get feedback in like isolation. So for example, typically when I say I did this thing or look at this thing, I just want validation. I just want, hey, Christian, this is awesome. Nice work on this. I don't want anything. No buts. No, wouldn't it be cool if? Like, I get super defensive if I get that kind of feedback. And then you have, okay, and then that's like general feedback I want. And then we can move into UI and UX fixes for the current scope. So that means like, okay, let's have a session now. What didn't work out with the current scope? So for example here, I don't see the difference on the categories. We kind of have to fix that. And I have an idea how to fix that. That's good feedback. During that session, if someone then says, wouldn't it be cool if you could change, like you could drag and drop the categories to change the order of them, then I get defensive. I get upset because I'm not tuned in for that kind of feedback. So that has to be a different session. So that's the third kind of session I want. That's like, then I kind of forget all the code, all the technical limitation, and then it's just open. Like, oh, it would be cool to drag and drop the categories to change the order of them. Yeah, that would be cool. And then I can kind of think about that and move to the next thing and the next thing. But doing all this kind of stuff at the same time. Anyways, my girlfriend had feedback on the categories around like vegan stuff. It doesn't really fit into any of the categories. And I was like, yeah, let's just put it in fruit and vegetables. To me, that's fruit and vegetables. But it's not. It can be any category, really. And then everything was kind of messed up. And I was like, we don't have any room for another category. Now it doesn't make any sense. And I got really upset. By the way, I was super tired. So I tried to explain to her my fragility around getting feedback. She didn't quite understand it. And maybe you don't either. I'm not in the... This is not a feedback session. But yeah, border color, that gives the color at least. But we also need the text. I am having a hard time figuring out... I'm thinking of having like the text here. So like it says no category selected. And when you actually select them, it shows you like fruit and vegetables here. So you like, typically you see the different colors, but you might be colorblind and so on. Anyways, I actually have to go. I have a meeting, but yes, what I really want to work on is we're going to make all of this optimistic. And some of it is quite simple. So for example, adding a grocery is basically, it's possible to create IDs. Oh my God, I open up the box now. I don't want feedback. I don't want anything. Just validate me for building this thing. And then I'll open up for feedback later. Actually, if you want to give feedback on UI UX, like I am actually going to deploy this, you can try it. Well, currently I manually have to create a family for you. I haven't created the flow for adding a family. But yeah, I have in the GitHub repo, I have the, if you go there, and I have a project where you can add, I'm not sure, do you have access to that? Anyways, this is UX fixes. So I already have a few things that's going to be fixed. But yeah, what we're going to do on this stream first is to make everything optimistic. And like adding a grocery is super simple because you can you create the ID on the client beforehand, so we can just add it. And if there's an error, we can like add the ID here. And this is what I'm doing to the errors as well. The error contains the information that you try to apply to the database. So it would be possible to like try again, or and if you try again, it might just directly try to push it to the database, or it could bring you back. Yeah, thanks. Or it might put you back into the view of actually adding the grocery. That's also possible. So, but typically this won't fail. But one of the more tricky things is this part where we, let's see. Oh, what the hell happened here? There's something really weird about Chrome. I'm not sure what's happening to the, it's giving these weird, is it? Oh, wait a minute. It's probably because there's some CSS here. Yeah, there's some CSS like media query based CSS that I haven't removed. Do something awesome. So if I save this and I go to plan current week, when I click these, you see these are quite slow. Like even this is a European server, but it's because it's a transaction. And making these optimistic is quite tricky, because if I were to click something very fast here and I optimistically change it in the client, the first click will get back as a snapshot and probably doesn't contain the second click. But how do I know that this second click is a pending change? Because if I just trust the snapshot, it will override what I'm clicking optimistically. And then the thing is that now I'm just a single person, but there will be another person here. I'll fix that later today. My girlfriend will join. And then, so for the other person, I want to like blindly just get the updates, because I can't change her data. She's the only one who can change that. I can only change my own. So I have to differentiate this. And then the question is, do we differentiate? Do we enable this by structuring the database differently? Or is this something we actually deal with in the client? Like it's super interesting because it's just one set of data, the activities of a to-do. So yeah, it's just a really interesting issue. I know how I want to fix it, but we can talk about it as I implement it. But yeah, it's actually really coming together. This is actually usable now. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to deploy it. And like, if you want to test the application without giving any feedback, please let me know. And I'll basically what you have to do, you have to log in, and then I can create a family for you, and then you can try it. Cool. But I have to go now. We'll talk later. Bye bye.